Hey, Queen. I'm Vieira Miles, and this is the Holistic Sister Circle podcast, a show where we hear the stories of soulful women all over the world dedicated to sharing insight into why holistic health is the future and what women should do today to ensure they have the necessary tools and resources to bring out their inner royal roots, assess their body, and remedy any illness from the comfort of their home. Y'all, we are setting the royal record straight, okay? If you'd like to connect with us further, you can follow us at The Holistic Sister Circle on Instagram and join the Holistic Sister Circle Facebook group for live interviews, collaborative Q&A, and exclusive training on how to build your wellness dream team. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. See you on the other side. Welcome to another episode of The Holistic Sister Circle. Today we have Leslie here with us, and she is a back pain specialist with over 20 years of experience. Her unique approach seamlessly blends modern science with the mind-body connection. It's a holistic, dynamic, and soothing while providing a foundation for a pain-free life. And she also developed her own approach while healing her own back pain. Leslie, I'm so grateful to have you. Welcome.
Thanks. Hi, Beer. Hey, everybody. So glad to be here. So much fun.
Yes, absolutely. So before we get started, Leslie, I would love for you to share with us, who is Leslie behind the titles, behind the back pain specialist? Who's Leslie?
I love that. Yeah. So I am a mother, an entrepreneur, a scientist. I am a lover of nature and all things fitness, wellness, holistic, and personal growth related. Am, a big believer of the health of the family starts in the home, in the kitchen, with every parenting choice, every food choice, every movement choice. I am very spiritual. I am a holistic energy practitioner as well. I have, a couple degrees in science, and I love blending the two together. I really believe there's been a big gap in our wellness experience in separating things and looking for the roots, because we're complex beings, we're integrated beings, and there's more of us that's spiritual than physical. And I think so many of us are waking up to that, because everything starts as energy and then it becomes matter. So I really love blending all of that together in everything I do.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And how do you feel like obviously all of your experience, your background, what you've done in the home, which has been fantastic, how has that related to your own back pain and your own story?
Yeah, I had back pain in my knees due to an injury. I was a professional sailor for a while. I didn't mention that, so now there's a little more into my background. I've always been very interested in off the beaten path type experiences because I find them very enriching in life. So, excuse me, I was lifting heavy things, as you do, and injured my back in my 20s because I really didn't know how to move well in my body, despite being very athletic and fitness oriented. We don't learn this stuff in school. We don't receive a manual on how to work with our body, move in our body, live in our body, and we just have to figure it out. So part of my mastery, my heroine's journey, was really that injury. And I do believe that a lot of us have those experiences so that we can have this journey. And I went to physical therapy. It seemed to heal just fine back then. And then fast forward years later, 2 pregnancies and a desk job and life changing. That injury popped right back up instantly, like as if it were a weak link. And it came through with my second child, and I was just in excruciating pain. I couldn't lift my child. I couldn't carry the groceries. I couldn't walk the dog. I mean, just really debilitating in the way that the body was just asking for so much focus, and everything else had to stop. And Vier, I'll tell you, it just really impacted my relationships. It impacted my marriage. It impacted how I wanted to parent. I had to learn very quickly to drop to my knees to pick up my children because I couldn't stand and lift them and not have back pain. And it just really changed my approach to everything. And so I started trying all the other modalities, acupuncture, chiropractic. I was working with a variety of modalities, and still I got about 80% there. And it really took a whole nother layer of in my heroine journey, in this mastery of learning how to blend biomechanics and all of this knowledge about the body and breath and meditation and mindset and all of it coming together to create this fantastic 100% robust healing experience. And this is what I do for my clients, because not only have I been there, but I've done the legwork to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Wow. First of all, before I even get into that for a second, I did not know you were a sailor.
Yeah. It was a short time in my life. Excuse me. It was a short time in my life, several years. And really what I did, I got into it because I wanted to take college students out on semester abroad programs and have that transformational experience with them. I've always been like a transformational junkie. Like I love that experience of taking people who have very few skills in an area and taking them to this level of mastery. And looking back now, I can say that's what I've always been doing. And I used to do it in different ways. And at the time, I loved nature and I loved the water and I loved environmental science. And who doesn't love whales and dolphins, right? So it was like all that fun stuff in a really good period of my life in between college and graduate school that I did that.
I love that. That's amazing. And it's so funny because like I can totally see it
Yeah, it was great.
for a short period of time.
Yeah,
Now,
it was great.
so one of the things that you did say, and I want to hit on this for a second, is I think it's so important how it didn't just affect you, but it also affected your relationships and how you parented. And I literally had someone in a community reach out to me earlier today, and she's like, "Vier, like I just want to vent for a second." She's like, one of the things that I can't, obviously for this wasn't necessarily back pain related, but I'm sharing this because I wanted to share with you because it affects every area of your life, not just you, the one going through it. Anyway, she was telling me how her husband she's been having so much difficulty getting him to eat healthy. And she's like, I buy the things and I'm the one that's, buying the things and feeding it to my family because I know that they love it and I know that they enjoy it. But at the end of the day, I'm also the demise of it because I am causing, the issues after the fact. And she was like, I just really want to vent for a second because I know that I'm supposed to be the healer in the home. I know that I'm supposed to be the one that's in the kitchen, that's mending the family, that's making sure that everyone is good. But what do you do when no one's listening? And
Yeah.
it's more like, you're fighting against everyone that's there. And I share this because you talked about it not just affecting you, but also your relationship with your marriage and then also your children. And I would love to know your perspective on when you were going through this, because it didn't just affect you. How did it affect your husband? And, you already talked about your children for a second. How did it affect all of your relationships? And how were you able to come to grips knowing that, like, dang, I don't know what to do next?
Yeah, that uncertainty is huge. And what I find in all relationships, no matter if you're single and have a close inner circle, or you're in a relationship where you're have found somebody that you're really all in with, I think that the most important thing to do is just really be able to hold space for each other. And I would say this to the woman in the community who responded to you, because there's an old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Like that was like, grandmother wisdom, right? And we say it a little different now, which is knowing what our grandparents didn't, is that we, especially as women, we hold energy in a different way than others. And our presence is more powerful than our often than our words, often than what we're modeling in how we make choices. Our energy that we hold and transmit is the change that we are here to make in the world. And how it impacted my relationships, and what I would say for others who are going through this, is just kind of getting out in front of saying, hey, pain is really all encompassing. I really need to focus on myself right now. I don't know what that looks like, but here's how I'm going to start. And just like any other point of communication is, once you have time to self-reflect, and whether you have a plan or not, the plan has already started, just in you taking that energy back and putting it on yourself. Because what happens, especially when we're in relationship and when we have kids, is everything's going out of our center. Everything. And it's impossible to heal. In fact, all healing is self-healing, because what we're doing is activating self-healing within each other. That's really what we're all doing here, right? That's the big game of being human, is we're all kind of in the soup together, having these experiences, and our energy in our ability to show up and be present and compassionate, that's activating our own self-healing and that self-healing in others. So while I do have all these amazing modalities and they really do work, what we're also doing is this. This is right. Vera knows this. This is what she's doing. This is how she's chosen to spend her time, is creating these platforms for self-healing. So what I would say is, really, the second you turn your focus back on yourself, you're already starting your path of that healing. And it's going to change your relationships as well. And as soon as you shift your energy from chaotic to calm, as soon as you shift and get comfortable with the uncertainty, but also having this fierce faith that a solution will present itself, that's when everything starts to shift. And that you don't have to do everything. That's the other thing. You don't have to do everything. Solutions do show up. And that's so fun, why we often will write solutions, right? Because it's coming from a higher place within us, this higher mind, the higher self is creating the solutions, but we have to be open enough to receive them. And what that openness really means is pulling back our energy, getting into center, and opening up to possibility.
Ooh, I love that. Solution.
Isn't that yummy? Yeah, solutions are real. That's real stuff.
It's really interesting to me too. Like, I know this is easier said than done. And when you're in the midst of it and you're going through it, it feels like, oh my gosh, like I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get over this, or I don't know if this is what I should even be going through, or you're trying to run from it, or whatever the case is. During your time and really figuring out what was going on with you in that time and only getting to that 80%, what was that 20% that you needed to actually truly heal yourself?
Yeah, that's such a cool thing. And that's that second level of mastery, right? We can outsource our health only to some extent, right? And then at some point, we're all going to be asked to create this platform of knowledge within ourselves and then embody it. And that's the 20%, is that education and empowerment embodied. And that embodiment is really knowing how to operate your unique vessel, right? Your unique humanity, your unique self, because everybody's a little different. And I'll even just share this anatomically. One of the most common discomforts in the body for some of my athletes is the piriformis. And maybe that's something you guys have heard of, is like, my piriformis is super sore, or this or that. Even the piriformis is located a little bit differently in every body. If that does,
the piriformis,
it runs across the glute muscles. And so if you're like a runner or a hiker or a biker, those muscles get like really tight, and that gets really irritated. And people are always like rolling it with a tennis ball, or doing all this stuff to it to try and get it to feel better. It's kind of like that with back pain too, is like, I'll always be able to spot someone with back pain in a gym or a yoga class, because they're doing all these stretches before class to try and get it to feel better. Like, you can just spot them, right? And it's like, okay. So this person is ready to get into their body and figure it out, but then they need the education, the understanding of that blend of the biomechanics mixed with energy mixed with the self-knowledge of your own body and your own inner workings. So that's kind of the long answer to that.
No, I'm glad that we're talking about this too, because even in the community, I feel like specifically I'm talking about our business owners here. A lot of them are so educated. Like they get the degrees, they get the certifications. I mean, they know their stuff. But when it comes to the empowerment piece and having the voice and speaking up for what they believe in and making sure they're standing on their square, that's the 20%. And most of them are not operating or embodying that level of certainty within themselves to actually say, regardless of what happens, regardless if you're standing with me or not, this is what we're doing and this is what I'm doing. And I'm going to follow suit and I'm going to show you what it actually looks like. And I share that because I think it's important that, especially us as women, that we do embody that we do focus on the things that are not just the education, but are the 20%, because that's what your family is looking at. Your family is looking for you to go the extra mile. Your family is looking for you to stand up for what you believe in, because that's ultimately what helps them grow and what helps them get out of their comfort zone as well. And now you are essentially the solution. You are the solution to the problem. You've solved the problem. So, I would love your perspective on that as well, Leslie, as far as like when you are really called to just activate in a whole new level and a whole new light, how do you just essentially make sure that when you are tackling on that 20%, that you're doing it in a way where you have the community and you also feel centered enough to take action, even when you don't know if someone's going to follow you, or you don't know if, you even know if you even have the right answers. But
Yeah, this is so good, Vera. Now we're into the grit, right? This is the grit and grace of entrepreneurialism. And this is what everybody is in your circle going through right now, is this up leveling. So there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty, and this is actually what yoga teaches, is to get comfortable with uncertainty. Right? To get comfortable with discomfort. So these are very ancient teachings, and we're all living them in our own unique ways right now, right? The greater teaching is that we're all rays of a single sun, right? And that each ray is here as a soul embodied, having these different experiences. So as we each go through these different experiences, they're going to look different, but there's a very common overarching theme, which is how do we get to this next level to get comfortable? And whether you think of it as, like oftentimes for people, being very myopically focused can help a lot. So I'm going to do this one thing. Because what we're really doing is tricking the mind, because the only fear is in the mind. And it's not real, but it's very real because there's some sort of historical experience that brings that fear to surface. And as we go through this, it can be very helpful to say, all right, I'm going to do this one thing. And then you can kind of create an I am statement, an affirmation about, all right, actually, I'm really good at doing this one thing. So I'm just going to do this one thing. And then I'm going to do this next thing. And then you just sort of lead yourself around. When I work with clients, I always say, we're going to go in through the side door on this, because if we go in directly, your brain is going to say, no way. I can't do that. It's going to hurt. It's going to do this. And there's no truth in it. So there's an aspect, of course, in the mind, right, where we sneak around it, go in the side door, create affirmations, create confidence. And the other thing that's really helpful, I would say, is to create concrete, tangible experiences where you're like, can see a result, right? And you're like, oh, I know that can happen because I just saw it happen. And then another thing that's really great, I think, when we're creating change is to just, besides saying, I'm going to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, but it's like a permission slip to allow yourself to just say, all right, I don't know what to do next. Maybe I need to find some inspiration somewhere else. Someone else has been through this phase. Someone else has gotten through this phase. Where can I find that? And that's why, I coach. This is why you coach. And coaches are amazing. And they really can take you to that next step. And so whether it's, you want to coach with a specific method, or you just want to see someone who's gotten past the step that you're in, this is why we exist, right? This is why we do what we're doing. And we're here to create that transformational change. And then I guess I'd say the third one is just at some point you have to decide you're all in. And you have to trust that what worked for you or worked for this other person can also work for you, because that's also a mindset game as well. It's very easy to look at our individual ways that we are as different, but we can also look at our individual ways as we are as the same. Like, okay, all right, so I just took this 3-day, challenge, and I'm all fired up, and now I can do it. And at some level, your mind believes you can, and at some level, your mind believes you can't. So just starting to dig into your own presence and your own, it's peeling back layers of your own onion, right? Of like, all right, what are my true beliefs and where are they popping up, and how am I working with them so that I can continue moving forward in my life?
Absolutely. This is so good because, oh my gosh, I know that there's so many people that are in this position, right? It's like, okay, it's uncertain, but I know I need to do it. I know I need to get out of my comfort zone. I know I need to take that next step. I'm not really sure what's happening, but that's where faith comes in. Like that's the faith, that's the little mustard seed that we need in order to move forward. So I appreciate you sharing that and just your perspective, because again, this is, we are at a phase right now where even in our community, like people are actually watching now. There was a time where people were just like, well, holistic health is like witchcraft and what is this? But people are actually, they're wanting answers and they're wanting solutions, and you are the solution, but only if you believe you are. You know what I mean? So I think
Absolutely.
what you're saying is fabulous. Now, what would you say are just really just like, if you could give just a couple practical steps for someone to take? And again, I'm not just solely focusing on back pain here, because this can be relatable and these are transferable skills in every area of your life. But what would you say would be some practical steps for someone to take if they did the 80%, right? They're like, I'm at the 80%, whether they have the back pain, whether they tried to find the solution, whether they went to the doctor, whether they're having the family issues, they did the 80%. And now they have that 20% that they are trying to overcome. What are some practical steps that you would share with them to take?
Yeah, I would say really start studying energy. Start to try and understand yourself as energy. And whether you do it through, there's tons of energy practitioners right now. And one of my favorite things that I'm seeing is that it's just become more and more accessible. There's energy psychology now. There's EFT tapping. As an example, there's practitioners. There are books. All sorts of ways to understand these bigger aspects of yourself and how they come in play. I've been teaching yoga for 20 years, practicing for 25. I have a huge background in somatics and energy. And it was really when I started understanding that it was unique to bring all this together, that's when the change really started happening in my life. Because if we really just think of stuff as happening on the mat or happening at a practitioner's office, then stuff doesn't actually shift in our lives. But as soon as we realize that we can look into anything that's going on with the body, from gut issues to back pain to, I actually just had a couple of concussion clients recently, because what happens with a concussion is, well, it starts in the head, it goes right into the spine, goes into the neck, goes into the back. And so all that is within my wheelhouse. But, that all started in a different aspect of the body than the spine. So we went through all the layers of working with that. So I guess the biggest shift in the whole holistic area, is that we, even as holistic practitioners, are growing what holistic actually means. We're getting bigger and bigger with the terms. We've always had these amazing ancient practices with breath and mindset and being able to connect with the spiritual and subtle aspects of our bodies, but we're being able to communicate this and create modalities that are better and better all the time. And then as far as just like some practical stuff, there's, one thing that's going to help with absolutely everything in your life. And doesn't always come across as sexy, but I want you to know there's nothing sexier than this, you guys. It's posture. Your posture determines absolutely everything in your life, from the way you bend over and pick something up, which impacts your back, to how you breathe and how much oxygen you're actually getting into your body and how much CO2 you're actually getting rid of, which is key, to how all of your organs perform. So if we just do a quick little exercise, so if you're driving, use your headrest. That's going to be an amazing clue. And if you're sitting down listening to this, just feel your sit bones underneath you. Stack your pelvis on top of that. Put your hands onto your ribs and feel your ribs stack on top of your pelvis. Feel the triangular bones in your back, your shoulder blades draw together a little bit to open your heart. And then slide your ears back over your shoulders. And I'm not saying you need to maintain this posture all the time, but this is your home base and it's where you want to come back to. This is your place of optimal breathing. It's the place where your energy is most centered. It's a place where if you initiate anything from here, you're going to have the greatest success. And it's a place where all of your organs want to be at least some of the time to have this rich exchange of energy. So I do a lot of postural work, of course, and it makes a huge difference. So if we were to just do those little quick tips, I would say that. And then the last one I would say is vary your position a lot. Humans are meant to move. And when we sit a lot, everything gets stagnant. And that's stagnant energy is where the problems start.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Leslie.
You're so welcome.
And if anyone was looking to connect with you further, what does that process look like?
Yeah, so I have all of my current offerings are on my website, which is centeredbyleslie.com. I have an ebook that's available. If you sign up for my website, you just receive it. It's called Self Practices to Resolve Back Pain. I have no cost strategy calls, so we can have a little time together, talk about a path forward. I have in-person intensive retreats, and I have a group retreat coming up this fall. So there's a lot of stuff, and it's always listed on the website. So check that out, and I'd love to connect with you all.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. This has truly been such a great experience and completely different from what we talked about previously. So I love it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, everybody. Thank you, Veer.
Queen, thank you so much for tuning in. It truly warms our heart that you're taking the time out of your day to connect with us. If you'd like to connect with our guests further, you can find their information located in the description section of this episode. And if you found this episode helpful, share with another queen. And don't forget to connect with the Holistic Sister Circle on Instagram and Facebook. And until next week, stay blessed. Mwah.